Hello again, everyone. So, finishing off Detroit week, I'm going to look at the Red Wings of the NHL. So, currently, the Red Wings have a 37, 17, and 11 record, so that's equal to 85 points. They have 17 games left in the season. They play the Blue Jackets tonight, and of those 17 games, only 5 of them are against opponents that have better records than they do. With 85 points, they're sitting pretty comfortable in their conference right now and should be able to get home ice advantage with the top 4 seed in their conference. With only 5 games left against opponents that have a better record than they do, they should be able to get to the 100-point plateau. With 85 points, that's 7 more wins and an overtime loss, or 8 wins, and I think they'll easily be able to go 500 for sure in their last 17 games of the season. So they should have a 100-point season, no problem there in Detroit. Looking back at the trade deadline and some of the moves they made, they picked up Eric Cole as well as a conditional third-round pick in this upcoming draft for the defenseman Backman, the forward Janmark, and a second-round pick in this upcoming year draft. They also picked up Marek Zidlicki, the defenseman, for a 2016 third-round pick. So they gave up a couple young guys, a couple early picks for some proven veterans, and I think for them to make a deep playoff push, you need to have guys that can produce and make an impact for your team. Eric Cole has 18 goals, 18 assists this season, and Zidlicki as a defenseman has 6 goals and 19 assists. So good pickups on the trade deadline for sure. Draft picks are something you never really know what'll come into them. Sure, hopefully you've done your scouting properly, and your picks you have in the first 2 to 3 rounds, you'll know whether or not they can produce in the NHL. But busts happen, surprises happen. You can draft guys late in the 6th round and they turn out to be stars. So you don't necessarily have to be drafting guys in the first round to have a team that can be competitive in the next couple years. Historically, the Red Wings usually are one of the older teams in the league. So first I'm going to talk about players on their team that were born in the 1970s. So the 2 guys they picked up at the trade deadline, Zidlicki and Cole, are both born in the 70s. So they're kind of nearing the end of their careers. Johan Franzen, who's only played about half a season for them because of injuries, he's still got 7 goals, 15 assists in half a season, so that's solid. Henrik Zetterberg, another guy born in the 70s, he's got 15 goals, 41 assists, so still producing really, really well. And the last guy that I'm going to talk about that they have on their roster that was born in the 70s is Pavel Datsyuk, 23 goals, 33 assists this season. So he's already got a 56-point season. By the end of the year, he could be having a 70-point season, 30-plus goals, 40-plus assists kind of season. And that's amazing for a guy that was born in the 70s kind of thing. Again, age is just a number, I think, for a lot of these NHL players. You know, if they can still produce and can still skate and compete with the young guys, then they're going to be on your roster. And Datsuk and Zetterberg and Eric Cole and Zidlicki and all these old guys, older guys, I shouldn't say old guys, but older guys, are still producing for your team, so they're in no looks of slowing down or nearing retirement or is this their last season. None of those talks are happening with these guys for sure. But you need to be able to have young guys as well, and I think Detroit has the kind of roster where they've balanced that out where they have a lot of good young talent. So flipping the page, I'm going to talk about players that they have in the roster that were born in the 90s, in the 1990s. So you have Sheehan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, hopefully. He's got 11 goals and 20 assists. He was their first-round pick back in 2010, 21st overall. And then you got Yurko, who's got 2 goals and 13 assists. He was their second-round pick, 35th overall, back in 2011. And then you have DeKeyser, who's a defenseman, who's got 2 goals and 21 assists. So that's extremely impressive for a defenseman, a young defenseman, to be having a 20-plus assist season is solid. But their greatest young guy so far in production wise is Tatar or Tater. Again, hopefully I'm pronouncing these names correctly. If I am not, I do apologize for that in advance. He's got 25 goals and 23 assists. He was their 2009 second round pick, 60th overall. But still a guy that was born in the 90s. So I'm not necessarily looking at their experience in the league or how many years they've been playing or how long it took them to develop. I'm just looking based on their year of birth. And these are all guys that were born in the 90s, so they're still fairly young. If they were born in the 90s, that means they're 24 or younger, which is really good. Some of them might have turned 25 at the beginning of this year, so 25 or younger. But those are good young guys that they have for sure. Their backup goalie, I'm not even going to talk about Gustafsson. I don't think his career in the NHL has turned out the way the Leafs thought it might have and then Detroit thought it might have. It hasn't at all. I don't see him having much more success in the NHL, much more playing time in the NHL. regardless of if he gets injured or anything like that. Jimmy Howard is their main goalie. He's got 43. He's played in 43 games. He's got a 29-9 record, 2.25 goals against average, and a 917 save percentage. So he's your number one goalie, and he can produce for you and be good between the pipes. And if he can keep opponents from scoring, a 2.25 GAA is really good. They can have a decent playoff run for sure. Their backup is a guy that was born in the 90s, Peter Mrazek. He's played in 20 games, and he's got a 13-5-1 record, a 2.55 GAA, and a 909 save percentage, which is still solid. Any save percentage over 900 is great. Once you get up to, the 925, 930 save percentage, you're looking at, Vezina Trophy winners right there. Those are your elite goaltenders. But any goaltender that can have a 900 plus save percentage and a GAA under 3 is an NHL caliber goalie for sure. And I think Jimmy Howard and Mrazek, that combo can have a deep playoff run for them. If Howard was to get injured, Mrazek can easily step in. Not, knock on wood, don't want that to happen for Detroit for sure. But Mrazek is a young guy, like I said, born in the 90s, that could become your next starting goaltender, depending on what happens with Jimmy Howard in the future, for sure. So I've talked about the guys in the 70s that were born in the 70s, guys that were born in the 90s. Then there's obviously players born in the 80s, in the middle there kind of thing, right? Zetterberg was born in 1980, so I included him in the 70s just because close enough. But other players that are producing for the team, for sure, defenseman Kronwall, 8 goals, 30 assists, so he's producing for the team, playing really, really well. And their forward Nyquist, who's got 22 goals and 24 assists. So you got another 50-plus point guy right there that could easily have a 50-plus point season. So you have a roster with veterans and young guys that you're going to have multiple players with 50-plus point seasons, 30-plus goal seasons. For sure, Datsuk just needs 7 for 30. Tatar needs 5 for 30. Nyquist needs 8 for 30 goals on the season. So it can definitely happen. Long shot, Eric Cole needs 12 to get 30 goals in the season. So with 17 games left, that could be tricky for him to try to get to that. Zetterberg would also need 15 goals to get to 30 on the season, so that could be tricky. But he's chipped in with 41 assists. So it's how you produce for your team. It's how you make an impact. If you're not scoring goals for your team, but you're assisting on a lot of goals, that's good. The key for a successful team is finding the players with the hot hands. And if you have guys that are on a 4-game point streak or something like that, then you want to be getting them the puck, because clearly they got the hot stick right now, and those are the guys that you should be getting looks to for sure. Excuse me. Like I said, they got a 37-17-11 record for 85 points right now. 17 games left. 12 of them are against opponents that have worse records than they do. So they should easily have a 100-point season. Depending on how Howard can play and how Mrazek can play, what these veterans can do, what these young guys continue to do, we'll see how deep their playoff run will be, what seed they end up getting. If they can get to a 100-point season, I could easily see them having a top 4 seed and having home ice advantage in the first round for sure. Depending on who their opponent is, we'll have to wait and see about that. The 4th seed, you're playing the 5th seed, so it's going to be a pretty competitive, evenly matched series for sure. Obviously, the higher the seed you have, the lower the seed you have to play. So obviously, if Detroit can try to get into the 2nd seed kind of thing and play the 7th, that's what they would ideally like. But as history has shown with the LA Kings, just because you're the 1st seed or the 2nd seed doesn't necessarily mean you got an easy first round opponent and you're playing the 7th or 8th seed, so the second round is pretty much there for you. You're going to have a competitive team regardless who you're playing in the first round for sure, whether you're the 1st seed playing the 8th seed or the 4th seed playing the 5th seed. It's just a matter of home ice advantage really when you're the 4th seed, because the 5th seed is probably a team that is only 2 or 3 points behind you, and you just lucked out, and now you have, if you were to have a 7-game series, you got 4 games at home instead of the 3. So good luck to Detroit at the end of the season. You only got 17 games left, pretty easy schedule for sure as well. Hopefully you can get to that 100-point plateau, and good luck in the playoffs. And hopefully these young guys can continue to produce for you, and these veterans can continue to get the puck in the net, and you'll have success for years to come, I'm sure. Thank you again for watching over the course of Detroit Week. You can follow me on Twitter at GHAM614, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the future about more sports stuff. Thanks again. Bye.